Guys, here is my new shrimp room. I absolutely love it. It has much more space, as you can hear from the echo, and we are ready to go. Look at this. Isn't this much better than before? I'm going to give you a pan around. Now bear in mind guys, I set this room up in 2 days. I had 1 whole month to move house, but we had issues and yeah, it got dragged out to the point where, I'm just going to come out and say it, all my money was eaten up by extra bills. We spent way more money than we thought we were going to spend. And yeah, so my shrimp room became something that was away on the back burner kind of thing, if you guys are familiar with that saying. But now that we finally have moved, guys, and upstairs and the rest of the basement stuff is all good to go, decorated, all the electrician stuff is done, plumbing's done, new kitchen, new flooring. You can see how much stuff we've done in a couple of weeks. I'm finally able to come in here and relax and enjoy my shrimp room again. Guys, I kind of lost my way a little bit with YouTube over the probably last year, 2 years, something like that, because I was always hamstrung with not having enough space. This has opened up a lot of new possibilities for me because I suddenly have lots and lots more room, right? Because it's not just this room here that we have to play with. I have another room through here that is exactly the same size. It has same dimensions, same windows. It doesn't look quite as nice as this because I've actually, believe it or not, decorated this room as well. I've actually painted all the walls white, added the racks, fitted some electrical connectors, new air system up the top. Yeah, it is as simple as this. Let me show you in here just so you can see for yourselves what we're dealing with. Is we have another room in here. It's very dark. But this is what the room through here, the first shrimp room, I'm going to call the shrimp room through here, shrimp room V2, because the old one in the other house would have been V1. This is what this room here used to look like, right? So right now all I have in here is a lot of my shrimp keeping stuff, my old racking system, and all my camping equipment and whatever else. But this is going to be racked out, and let's go back through here and talk. It's going to be racked out, and I'm going to do the plumbing a little bit better than this. I'm going to try and do the wiring really well as well, because that's something I want to learn, guys, is how to wire properly. Because I'll just show you this quickly right now, and that is, you see all the lights in here, 2 plugs, and that is all there is, and they're both on timers, right? So when I come in this room, I never have to touch anything. Come in, everything's already on. We're going to have lots of shrimp tanks as usual, but what I want to do, guys, is learn how to keep shrimp really well. So I'm starting to go in that direction a little bit right now. I'm not going to go into too much detail on how I'm doing stuff right now, because this is just a reintroduction of myself to YouTube after being away for a couple of months. But what you will see in the future videos is how I do things more specifically, right? And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this right now, how things have changed a little bit, and you'll see exactly what I mean, right? So we're going to have a look at a tank from one of my older setups that I had in one of my older tanks, and then we're going to look at one of the new ones. Some of these tanks don't have shrimp. I actually have tanks, guys, where I experiment on with soils and stuff that you haven't seen either. I don't typically add shrimp to these tanks just yet until I'm super confident that these setups work, but I'm going to show you some of this stuff today just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with, right? So here's a good example here. We have 2 aqua tanks here, and we have some shrimp in each tank. These are Galaxy hybrids in here. You can look at the tank, you see them. This is Akadama, there's a little bit of Amazonia. Look at the glass, look at the filtration, just get an idea of the tank, right? So this is the way I used to do it. Same with the tank above. And guys, what you'll notice here is the water itself looks really nice. Plants look nice, not an awful lot of shrimp, right? And that is my issue there, is there's not an awful lot of shrimp. And I'm a shrimp breeder, so we have to change things. As I said, I've been playing with stuff and I'm kind of very happy with the way things are going, right? So let's have a look at some tanks where I've changed things as well. Let's have a look. So this tank here is 2 weeks old. And you'll see the difference in this instantly compared to the tanks that I've just shown you. Less plants, right? The tank itself, you can see the soil, it's just totally different to the other tanks. It's 88 Amazonia again though. Look at the filtration. Look at all that build-up of stuff. Look at this glass. This is one of the important things I wanted to show you. And as I said, guys, I'll go into more detail on the way I'm doing it now compared to before in future videos, right? So if you have any questions about this, just ask me in the comment section below. Let's look at another tank where I set up this very same example last week, and you will see what I'm doing is working really, really well, really, really fast. I think this tank isn't even a week old. Look at how much green is in there, guys. I've never been able to get tanks as good and green as this before in my life. So that is the way we're going. A lot of my tanks just look the same as before. Some of them are doing really well. And this was the tank I set up the other day. This is a really, really minimalist setup, but again, look at the glass, starting to go green. This is a tank that was set up 2 days ago. It's starting to go green already. A lot of my older tanks still have a lot of shrimp, like these Super Crystal Reds, still have a lot of shrimp. We have Asian style filters in the back. This tank is producing a lot of babies. This tank here was a test tank that I finally put shrimp in, because this tank is a Tropica soil tank, guys, and I've actually had this tank here set up for about 5 months. Right, and I didn't put any shrimp in it until I was 100% happy with the way it was. And when I mean that, guys, I've got to see life in the tank. I've got to see little minute animals, snails, whatever else. I've got to see algae, good plant growth. And as you can see, it looks pretty nice in there, doesn't it? You can see the green starting to build up. You can see all the copepods in there. It's an older tank. This one will be getting redone. This is another Galaxy hybrid tank. My red fancy tiger tank at the top. You just see one shrimp at the side here. This is one of my mixed bee shrimp colonies. You haven't actually seen this one before, but I thought I would show it to you today. This is one of my favorite type of tank, guys, because you tend to get a lot of baby shrimp in a tank like this where you have a lot of mixed bee shrimp. Here in this tank is one of my experimental tanks. Sorry for that glare. And by experimental, I mean this tank has been set up for 6+ months, this one here. I'm going to show you the top. Tell me how green that duckweed is. If it's very green, it's looking like it's going to be a good one. And what I mean by that, guys, is we want lots of nutrients, algae in this tank. And I don't mean tons of string algae, I just mean like spot algae and stuff on the glass. You want some algae or your shrimp will struggle. You want a lot of micro life in there, snails. And guys, I'll just tell you off the bat right now what I did with this tank and why it's an experimental tank. I was using this tank to test different fertilizer tubs. And I was going through my local stores called Plantation. They have different ones. And this was one that was like an artificial type fertilizer that looked green. I think I had a little bit of copper in it. And the reason I tried it with this tank, guys, is because this tank was really struggling for plant growth. Now, I've just shown you all this duckweed up there, and I've shown you the growth of the jungle val at the side here, and this Phosidens. The Phosidens was not grown at all, and it was yellow, but look at it now. So you can see the way I'm going here, guys. I like to test my stuff and test it and test it and test it and test it. And eventually a bingo will happen, and we'll have really, really successful ways of breeding lots and lots of shrimp. You guys will probably want to know how I got on with moving all this stuff. It was tough, moving all this stuff in 2 days. I actually had 4 days left of the agreement for us to move it, for me to get all this done, but we did it in 2 days, and yeah, I was absolutely destroyed. Moving house, guys, is much, much harder than I remember it was, and a lot of that was to do with the sheer volume of painting that we had to do here. We have a lot of pine cladding in the rooms here in Norway, and yeah, my wife doesn't like that, so there was an awful lot of white painting onto the pine clad, just to make it a little bit brighter in the rooms and whatever else. And yeah, my back was probably destroyed about 3 or 4 times during that time. And yeah, this is where we are with the shrimp. But now, guys, at least I can start to relax a little bit. We've got most of the work done in the house that we're going to do this year. And now it's just about moving our stuff to where we want it to be, decorating a little bit, fixing stairs, all that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, I went off on a tangent. This is one of Mark's videos, you can always tell. So as you can see down here, we still have a lot of the tanks that we used to have before. Really tank What are these ones? Calcio in that tank, Tangerine Tigers, Blue Dreams doing really, really well actually. Guys, this one thing I will tell you is it's not a good idea to drain all the water out of a tank that you have fish in and move them, because I'm not sure all the bristlenose survived in here. I think I've seen 3 of the bristlenose, 2 of them are the males and 1 of the females, but I've not seen the golden one since we moved in here. So yeah, that is maybe something that if I was to do it again, I'd definitely catch the fish out of it, especially the bigger fish. Yeah, keep them separate for the move, because all we did, guys, was drop the water right down to about 1 centimetre. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a hope in hell of us actually lifting the tanks from the previous position to here, because I took this all in the car, right? We actually do have a bigger trailer and stuff, but I didn't want to risk fish tanks in a trailer, especially when you go over bumps and stuff. Anyone that has a trailer will know what I'm talking about. They're probably not the best thing to move aquariums. So some of this stuff will be getting replaced. I think I'm going to put my cherry shrimp into a dedicated tank. It's going to go over here somewhere. I think we might even mix our Endler tub into a new tank for something down here. This, as I said, this is one that we just set up probably 2 weeks ago, and it's doing really good. Every day it looks a little bit greener. Now this is a tank that I wanted to do for a while, and this one is a big Opaula tank, and yeah, it's going to give my shrimp much more space. I think this bottom one here is maybe 40 litres, something like this here. This one's about 250 litres, so it's much bigger. All I did with this, guys, was fill it with RO water, add the salt, let it mix for a couple of days, put the rocks in that I wanted to put in, and I accidentally added some shrimp to it at the same time when I was adding the rocks. You could probably just see one of the Opaula there. But the ones that have been put in here have all been doing good. So the salinity is the same in these 2 tanks. I think it's 1.015 or 1.10. It's between 10 and 15 anyway, guys. And when I'm doing this, when I'm adding shrimp to tanks, and normally I drip acclimate them and stuff, and some of these went in just accidentally straight away. You can see some of the filter there at the back, you see? Yeah, it is what it is. Those guys will be fine, because these guys are incredibly hardy. But it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and that is have a much bigger Opaula tank. You can tell, guys, I love Opaula. I love them. Since I moved in here as well, look at all these babies. If you can see past that glare there, you can see all the babies floating around in the centre, and look at all the shrimp on the filter. As I said, we'll go into more detail in future videos and how I'm doing things now with things like this, because yeah, this tank is probably at that time where I needed to move some shrimp out of it, just because it's so much shrimp. How am I managing my water? It's the same reverse osmosis system. I did try and do it with these buckets like I did in the old house, but I just didn't have the volume of water required to fill these tanks, right? So I switched to this over here, look. So we have my reverse osmosis system set up here. All these filters have been replaced and renewed. I know it looks like a bit of a mess, but I would rather have it looking like this and working fantastically than just looking a mess and not working fantastically. Anybody that has reverse osmosis stuff knows what I'm talking about here. So it was a quick change for all the filters. I changed the membranes to them because this is set up in a water saver configuration. So I have 2 membranes in mine. And basically you're taking the wastewater from one and passing it through a second membrane, and then that water is then joined back onto the outlet of the good water of the first membrane. My God, I said that right first time. And then it has to go through DI resin and stuff under here. You can see I have them just hanging like this. And I found this seems to be the best way, where the water goes in through the bottom and then goes up through the DI resin. I think this is the proper way to do it, because any other way I've tried it, you get a lot of air trapped in here. I don't want to go off in tangents, guys. I just want to show you my stuff today, just to give you a rough idea of what I'm doing. Oh, by the way, guys, sorry, so this is not the air pump that I used to have in my old room, but I like this one, and this one is relatively cheap. It's like maybe 60 or 70 pounds on Amazon. It's a Helia V60, and it's reasonably quiet in here. And guys, the reason I went back to this from my other one is because my other one's very expensive. Or it was at the time I bought it. It was roughly about $200. I want to make sure that whenever I do stuff now in my shrimp room, I always have a backup, always. Right, so if a tank breaks, I always have a backup tank. That's why I have so many empty tanks as well, because I want to have backups. I have backup pumps. I have at least another 3 pumps through there in that room that are backup pumps. In case this fails, just switch it over really fast, make sure it works. Yeah, so over here I have my linear piston air pump. here is doing a little job for me over here. Right? So this one is a 45C, so that's 45 litres a minute. It's very quiet. So I have an auto shut-off switch there on this. You can see my water comes up here, goes across and then back down. Water comes out of the tanks. I'm going to have a central basin in the middle here with a pump that will pump water from the basin to the sink or to the drain underneath. Right, and this is how I fill it back up. I have a pump in here that comes out across like this, and it goes to this hose pipe, and then it goes back to a hook like this, right? And I'm able to take this hook, let me show you here, look, this hook here, to anywhere in the room, shove it over, and turn it on, right? And guys, I've been doing it this way for a little over a week, something like that. It is fantastic. I should have been doing this years ago. It is such a time saver when you're able to fill up water so much faster. I don't mean so fast that you're blowing stuff all over the place in your soil, all over the place into bits and whatever else, and you're destroying the tanks. I mean, it's just fast enough that it fills the tank up, and then you can move on to the next tank. Let me show you something that is superb. And this is how I'm doing it. Look, I have a remote control, and there's a switch down here that connects to the plug that is connected to that pump, right? And I just have to turn this on. You probably can hear it there. Right, when I'm walking around, I'll put this into my pocket. And you can see, if I can turn it around enough, you can probably see how much water comes out, right? And I've added a T onto there to diffuse the power of the pump even more. Right, so when I'm done with one tank, I'm like this over here, plop, put it into one tank, it fills up, I'm going to the next one. All I do is press one of these buttons here, right? Here it went off, the pump went off, I put it into the next one, pump it back on. Isn't that superb? So that is something I should have done a long, long, long time ago, right? So that is the state of my shrimp room as of today. The direction I'm going to go in, guys, is probably trying to breed more Caridina shrimp. I want to get back into really breeding crystals, crystal reds, crystal blacks. Eventually getting some bow off of some kind person that will that wants to ship to me. Because that's the thing I love. I think for me, if something is difficult, it is rewarding when you're able to actually do it, right? So for neos, there's nothing against people that keep neos, by the way. Neos in a nutshell are add water, add food, breed thousands of them. It's not the same with Caridina. I'm not saying that I won't continue to breed neo Caridina, but the direction I'm going to head in is I'm going to start to try and breed more and more and more exotic types of bee shrimp, because that's where my heart is. That's the thing I love. Sorry if I hit the microphone there. So there you have it, guys. There is my first kind of little shrimp room tour of the year, even though it's November. This is the first one in my new house. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like and subscribe. And guys, I love you all. I'll see you in the next one. Happy shrimp keeping.